Now let's talk about Synapse Analytics. Before Fabric, advent of Fabric, Synapse Analytics was Azure's mainstream data processing platform. So what is Synapse Analytics? I think we talked about this briefly before, but let's pick it up again. So the gray area, this gray area is Synapse Analytics. It includes data pipelines to ingest data from different sources, store them into a data lake storage, and it allows you to use different pools, such as a Spark pool, or this is a real-time, near real-time processing pool, or serverless and dedicated SQL pools. Serverless pool handles lakehouse, dedicated SQL pool handles the data warehouse. The difference between this Synapse and the Fabric, as you can see, is mostly in this. In Synapse Analytics, you can define your own lake storage, where in Fabric you are controlled and you cannot access the Azure data lake storage that is completely controlled by Microsoft. But basically the lakehouse, the warehouse, the Spark pools, these are similar. The real time things is out of the scope of this class, so we're not going to talk about this. The other thing that's missing from Synapse Analytics is Power BI is a different product. So you have this pipeline, you have the upgraded Lakehouse, and you have Spark and the SQL pools plus Power BI. That's the future Fabric. But for Synapse itself, it's just a data processing and storage platform. And that's partly why Microsoft would like to roll out another product when they already have Synapse Analytics. Why do you want to have a Fabric? Because you do want to integrate this data processing platform into the delivery. You want to have an integrated data platform, right? Eventually, data platforms are built to deliver data. But Synapse, as powerful it is, it's not integrated with Power BI, and it's hard to put them together to form end-to-end delivery. And that's why we have a Fabric. But before we go back to Fabric, let's continue on see what the Synapse Analytics is about. So Synapse Analytics provide, what does it provide? It provides storage. It's an Azure Data Lake, and you have the data warehouse. Data engineering, we have the dedicated SQL pool, which is the data warehouse, the SQL data warehouse, full-scale data warehouse product, and serverless SQL pool, which is Lakehouse solution, and then Spark pool, of course, running Spark's ecosystem. Synapse have these functionalities inside its user function interface. You have a data, you have develop, and you have integrate. So data is for storage. You will define a storage, and develop is for compute, and integrate is for orchestration. As you can see, this is very similar to whatever we talked about when we talk about Databricks and Fabric. You are defining storage, you are defining compute. And then, of course, eventually you need some kind of orchestration, right? In Databricks, we also have a workflow, but we didn't cover though. So Synapse data, you can define lakehouse, you can define warehouse, where you can introduce tables. You can manually map files in data lake into Synapse lakehouse or create managed files. It's exactly the same as the Fabric, just a different interface. However, the difference here is that how you integrate. In Fabric, there's only one layer. You directly get the file into Lakehouse, right? And then define table. In Synapse, you not only have the workspace, you have a linked integration dataset, SQL database, etc. So there are more layers. There are it's more cumbersome, especially this integration dataset. A lot of operations has to be done through this integration dataset. So this is integration. This is the interface when you define integration data set. It's flexible, it's manual. As you can see, for example, this is introducing a CSV file. In CSV file, you can introduce tab, you can use starting off heading, you can have much more to define. Encoding quote character or like headers can have a space, headers can have a special characters. So this is definitely more powerful than Fabric. Remember in Fabric, you just drag and drop, get the CSV file, but you cannot handle the tab delimited file, right? You cannot define a customized header with a space with certain characters and encoding. But of course, that one, Fabric one, is much easier for most part because most of the CSV are conforming CSVs. Now, with integration data set, you have more powerful, it's a more powerful tool. You have more options, but define this is difficult. When this course was utilizing Synapse, using integration data sets, for our lab, it constantly go into like late night, like 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. Um, just because people need to define all this and choosing their favorite options, right? Of course, the favorite with a quote. Now, Fabric, the operation of introducing tables or external data is much more easier. But then you also see there's less options that you can set. So we just talked about the data side where you have the data integration data set and other options, right? And then it's a developer side, which is compute. Now, compute, you can see this is what you can add. Notebook, SQL script, KQL script, which is the real-time processing tool, data flow, Spark job definition, again, similar to what you see in Fabric and similar to what you see in Databricks, right? They are all same, organized differently with a different interface. However, there is a difference, is that it's not so conveniently integrated. What I mean here is like when you create when you create a data notebook or SQL script, it's hard to find how this how to trace back to the data set. It's not so easily integrated as in in Fabric, where you open up a notebook, immediately you have a lake house to the left of your screen, and you can pick the table. So again, this is another example of how Fabric is more difficult to is more easier to use, and Synapse, although it probably integrates more things, is not as convenient. Then we have the integration and the orchestration side where you also have the same pipeline. It's basically the same pipeline as you will see in Fabric. So there's nothing we need to cover because we already go through what the Fabric pipeline is. Okay, so you have all these tools, Synapse and the general. Let's see some of the tools. You just see filter, if condition. We mentioned all these, right? Execute pipeline. And see that it also have execute SSIS package for backward compatibility, store procedure script, everything, and similarly error handling or on success execution, the data flows. So these are similar to Fabric. It's basically the same tool at all. Fabric just introduced the Synapse, the Azure Data Factory. So let's take a look at Synapse. And I already get the Synapse Analytics here. Click here. Again, similarly, you have the workspace from Azure, right? So if you now you do a comparison for Synapse Analytics, for Fabric, and for Databricks, you all have a workspace. Synapse workspace, Databricks workspace, and Fabric workspace. You click here, and you launch your workspace. You will. It's called a Studio, but basically it's the same thing. Open up Synapse Analytics, and comparing to Databricks and the Fabric, what do you expect to see, right? You would see, of course, the authentication part, but then you will see the compute and storage. So it's still loading. But now you have the data you have developed where you can define lakehouse, you can add SQL database. If you want to create a SQL database, then you will need to get into dedicated pool, which is data warehouse, or serverless pool, right? So I'm not going to choose this. I'm just showing you a link. You can define storage link to your data lake storage and possibly add integration data set. That's what we just talked about. There's an option. You can see there, you can, if you refer back to what you see in Fabric, you have Amazon S3, data lake storage Gen 2, and there's also somewhere must be the Google Cloud, but as you can see, Synapse apparently have more connectivities, right? Because it's a more matured, it exists for exists longer, and it's more matured. But again, the options you have more options, but it's not as easy. Then develop, you can create those that we just see: notebook, SQL script, data flow, etc. Integrate with pipelines. So overall, this is how Synapse looks like, and how now you can stop and think the similarity and the difference between these. They have the same similar underlying technology, maybe a slight difference in implementation, but fundamentally it's compute storage. Storage is done in cloud storage, right? All of these three, Fabric, Synapse Analytics, Databricks, all the storage are done in some kind of a cloud storage in the format that is either Delta Lake or a regular Apache Data Lake. And then compute is either SQL, either Spark operation, Spark SQL, Spark data frame, or some kind of Microsoft technology. So hope this helps you understand both Databricks and Synapse. Give you a quick glance and on its fundamental component, so that in the future you will be when you run into this at work, you will get familiarized with all tools very soon.